Choi vs Errons. After going 3-0, Choi must have been hoping for an easier fight. While Errons is susceptible to takedowns, especially after throwing unorthodox but ineffective strikes, I don't think Choi will be able to capitalize. The Korean is the more disciplined fighter of the two and could possibly catch Errons, who always keeps his right hand too low. Unfortunately for him, Errons is an expert at muffling strike with his face and could catch him with his favorite uppercut. Na vs Aldrich. Na is a product of the Shanghai PI with an aggressive wrestling style which I appreciate. She, however, doesn't settle her hips and doesn't hold a position long enough, creating chances for her opponents to get to their feet. She also has no strength to complete her submissions, which has allowed her opponents to KO her from guard. Aldrich, for lack of better description, fights like a soccer mom, especially when shuffling to cut off her opponents. With her game attitude and good distant control, I'm picking her to get the decision. Kinoshita vs Goff. This is a meeting between two contender series alums. Kinoshita is a character facing off against a wrestler, making this an easy win for Goff. Kenan vs Bedoya. While Kenan has been stopped in his last two outings, I believe the veteran will still be too much for the upcoming prospect. Njokuani vs Oleksiejczuk. Chidi is a fantastic striker with lots of experience who lacks the athleticism to capitalize at times. He also has a tendency to fade in fights, especially when facing adversity. Mikkel, on the other hand, compensates for his shortcomings with power, which will serve him well, having dropped down a weight class. While he is the best on the ground, I trust him more to go after the win. Kazama vs Armfield. Kazama made his way into the UFC by grappling his way to victory in his region and looks shaky whenever he is on the feet. I think Armfield will prove to be a step up in competition and finish Kazama. Acosta vs Brzeski. Two big men without little knockout power, definitely a long, slow road to a decision. Both fighters don't excel in much, but the main difference is Acosta has the work rate, size, and endurance to get the win. Porter vs Tafa. This is a matchup of two fighters fighting above their weight class. Junior is a former Glory kickboxer with an aggressive style and heavy hands who has faced off against Big Ben. He may only lasted a round, but you try fighting the giant Moroccan with your cup falling out of your shorts. Since then he has shed some pounds, which should help with his cardio issues, but he has a terrible ground game which leaves him open to be laid and preyed upon. Junior Tafa is, as the name suggests, the junior of the Tafa brothers who KO'd Porter, and I expect the more talented and taller brother to do the same. Blanchfield vs Santos, or Hype Train vs Reality. Blanchfield is a BJJ specialist with terrible striking and heavy hands. She got outstruck by an out-of-shape Andrade. Her record is padded with cans and actual cans. How will she beat a Talia Santos who has given Shevchenko problems on the feet? She won't. Talia lacks the aggressive edge and concentration to push ahead, is evident in both her losses. Hopefully she gets things in gear and derails this hype train. Nakamura vs Garcia. Nakamura is the first road to the UFC fighter in the UFC. With a pedigree in wrestling and power in his strikes, I back him to beat the one-dimensional boxer Inferni Garcia. Chikadze vs Caceres. I have to say I'm rather impressed with the string of wins Caceres has strung along. Chikadze has built his style around his Giga kick, which will be unavailable to him as he faces a southpaw. This, as well as Caceres' willingness to grapple, could lead to an upset in the making. Smith vs Spann. With most of the top 10 being booked or injured, I guess the UFC had no choice but to run this one back. In the last fight, Smith had something to prove and outdogged Spann and managed to get a club and sub. According to Spann, he only started training 2 fights ago, so expect the 40s man to climb the ranks once more. Holloway vs Jung. While I understand the appeal, this is a mismatch of a main event. As Holloway used to say, the best is blessed, and while he is no longer the best, he is still the best of the rest. Zombie has slowed down in recent years and will end up being made a walking punching bag for as long as the fight goes.